I live alone in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind of place where people still wave at each other and exchange polite smiles. Safe, at least I thought it was. I work long hours, and since break-ins have been happening in nearby areas, I installed security cameras. Not inside my house, just outside, covering the front door, backyard, and driveway. The cameras weren't anything fancy, just motion-activated with notifications sent straight to my phone. It gave me peace of mind. Last night, that peace shattered. I was in bed, scrolling through my phone, when a notification popped up. Motion detected inside. My stomach dropped. Inside? That had to be a mistake. I only had cameras outside. I sat up, heart pounding, and opened the app. The feed loaded, showing a dimly lit image from inside my bedroom closet. I froze. The closet door was slightly ajar, just enough for the camera to capture a sliver of the dark space inside. But that wasn't what made my blood run cold. There was someone standing there. A tall, shadowy figure, unmoving, barely distinguishable against the darkness. No features, no details, just an outline of a person. Watching. A surge of fear paralyzed me. How was this possible? I never installed a camera inside my closet. And I was alone. My brain scrambled for explanations. A glitch? A hack? But my gut told me the truth. Someone was in my house. I swallowed my fear and forced myself to move. My eyes flicked to the closet. The door was closed, completely shut, just as I had left it. But the app still showed the live feed, still displayed that motion alert from inside. I reached for the baseball bat I kept by my bed, gripping it so tightly my knuckles turned white. I had to check. Holding my breath, I crept forward and pressed my palm against the closet door. My skin prickled. It felt wrong. Too quiet, too still, as if the air itself was holding its breath. I counted to 3 in my head. Then I yanked the door open. Nothing. The closet was empty. Just clothes, shoes, and storage boxes. No one was there. I exhaled, shaking, and checked the camera feed again. The figure was gone. The motion alert was still there, timestamped just minutes ago. But now the image showed an empty closet, exactly as I saw it in real life. I wanted to believe it was a mistake, a glitch in the system. But then, something else caught my eye. One of my shirts, hanging among the others, was swaying slightly, as if someone had just been there. I slammed the closet door shut and backed away, gripping the bat until my hands ached. I didn't sleep that night. I told myself it was a trick of the light, maybe even a prank by some hacker messing with my system. But deep down, I knew. Someone or something was inside my closet, and I had no idea if it was still in the house. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every noise, the creak of the house settling, the rustling of tree branches outside, sent a fresh wave of fear through me. I kept checking the closet, half expecting to see it cracked open again, to see that shadowy figure standing there, watching. But nothing happened. Just silence. At some point, exhaustion took over, and I dozed off, the baseball bat still clutched in my hands. I woke up just after sunrise, my phone still in my lap. The notification from last night was still there, the image of the shadowy figure frozen in my feed. I stared at it, trying to convince myself it was a glitch. But deep down, I knew better. I needed answers. I spent the morning checking my entire house, searching for signs of forced entry. Every door was locked. Every window was shut. Nothing was out of place, except for the unsettling feeling that I wasn't alone. Then I had an idea. If the camera had somehow recorded movement inside my closet, maybe it wasn't a live feed. Maybe it was playing back an old clip. Some kind of delay. I opened the app, scrolling through the recorded footage. Most clips were the usual, me coming and going, the occasional flicker of movement when the app picked up shadows or shifting light. Then I reached last night's recording. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the play button. A deep sense of dread settled over me, warning me not to look. But I had to. I pressed play. The footage was grainy, dark, but clear enough. The closet door was shut at first. Then, at exactly 2:47 a.m., the door creaked open, slowly. I felt my breath hitch. And then, from the darkness inside, something stepped out. The figure was tall and thin, its movements unnatural. It didn't walk. It seemed to glide forward, its head tilting slightly, as if listening. The shape was still featureless, just a solid black silhouette, but something about it felt wrong. I watched, frozen, as it moved toward my bed, where I had been sleeping. The figure stood there for a full minute, just watching. Then, without warning, it turned its head sharply toward the camera. I gasped and nearly dropped my phone. It was looking at me, as if it knew I would watch this recording. Then, just as silently as it had appeared, it moved backward, step by step, slowly, back into the closet, and the door closed. I scrambled up from my bed, my heart hammering in my chest. My closet was shut now, just like in the video. But was it still in there? I didn't know what terrified me more. The fact that something had been in my room watching me as I slept, or the fact that it had come from inside my closet. And the worst part? The camera had never been inside my house. So who or what was recording? Couldn't breathe. My mind refused to process what I had just seen. I wanted to believe it was some kind of sick joke, some hacker messing with my system. But how? The footage was real. Something came out of my closet. Something watched me sleep. And then, just as it had appeared, it vanished. I forced myself to move, gripping the bat tighter as I stepped toward the closet. My entire body screamed at me to run, to get out of the house and never come back. But I had to know. I had to see it with my own eyes. I stopped in front of the closet door, my hand hovering over the handle. The same dread from last night crept up my spine, a deep, gut-wrenching feeling that I wasn't alone. That if I opened this door, something would be there. I counted to 3 in my head. Then I yanked the door open. Darkness. I flicked on the light. My clothes hung neatly, my shoes lined up on the floor. Storage boxes stacked against the back wall. Everything was normal, but it wasn't. I stepped inside hesitantly, pushing aside the hanging clothes. My fingers ran along the back wall, searching for anything unusual. A hole? A hidden panel? A camera? Something to explain this. Then I felt it. The wall, right where the figure had disappeared, was ice cold. I jerked my hand back, my pulse skyrocketing. That was impossible. The rest of the closet was warm, but this one spot, freezing. Like something had been there. I backed out, slamming the door shut, my breath coming in short gasps. I needed to get out of this house. I grabbed my keys and practically ran to my car. As I sped away, I glanced at my phone, the app still open on my last viewed recording. I almost didn't want to check the live feed, but I did. The closet door was open again, and standing inside, half hidden by shadows, was the figure, watching me leave. I didn't go back home that night. Couldn't. I drove aimlessly for hours, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Every time I glanced at my phone, the app was still open, still showing the live feed. The closet door remained slightly ajar, and the figure, it was still there, unmoving, watching. I parked in an all-night diner, my mind racing. I wanted to believe it was some kind of elaborate hoax, someone hacking my system, maybe a glitch in the camera software. But none of that explained the footage, the feeling in my closet, the way the figure had stepped out and looked at me. And worst of all, it knew. I sat in the car for what felt like hours, trying to convince myself that I was imagining things. That if I went back home, everything would be fine. That nothing was waiting for me. But deep down, I knew better. At some point, exhaustion won. I checked into a cheap motel just off the highway, double-locked the door, and collapsed onto the bed, too tired to care about the stained sheets or the flickering overhead light. My body was drained, my mind foggy with exhaustion. I just needed sleep, just a few hours. I turned my phone over so I wouldn't see the screen and closed my eyes. I must have slept, but not peacefully. My dreams were filled with shadows, with the sensation of being watched, of something standing over me. I heard whispering, soft, indecipherable, like something speaking just beyond the range of understanding. My body felt paralyzed, heavy, like something was pressing down on my chest. I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart hammering against my ribs. The room was silent, but the air felt wrong. Thick, stagnant, like something else was in here with me. I turned on my phone. The battery was nearly dead. 3:33 a.m. A notification was waiting for me. Motion detected inside. Inside. Not my house. The motel room. My blood turned to ice. With shaking hands, I opened the app. First, the screen was dark. Then the image loaded, showing the grainy, low-light view of my motel room. The camera angle was from the closet. Only this time, the closet door wasn't closed. It was wide open. And just outside of the frame, something was peering out. A shape, a silhouette, watching me. Couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Then the screen flickered just for a second. And the figure was gone. I shot up, scrambling for the light switch, my breath coming in short, panic gasps. My eyes darted to the closet. It was open. The cheap wooden door slightly ajar. Just enough for someone or something to be inside. Watching. Waiting. I wasn't alone. I wasn't safe. My entire body locked up as I stared at the open closet door. The air in the motel room felt heavier, suffocating. My ears strained for any sound, but the silence was absolute. The app was still open on my phone, the grainy feed frozen on that last frame. The closet door open, the figure gone. But where did it go? I forced myself to breathe, gripping the edge of the motel bed like it was the only thing tethering me to reality. I needed to move. I needed to get out of this room. Slowly, I swung my legs over the side of the bed, every muscle in my body screaming in protest. My phone's flashlight flickered to life as I aimed it at the closet. Shadows stretched across the floor, twisting unnaturally in the dim glow. The door was still. No movement. No sound. But the moment my feet touched the carpet, creak, I froze. The closet door had moved. Just an inch. A small, almost imperceptible shift, but enough. I felt something deep, primal, a raw understanding that whatever was in there wanted me to open it. It was waiting for me to look inside. No, I wasn't playing this game. I bolted. Snatching my keys and yanking open the motel door, I ran to my car, slamming the door shut and locking it behind me. My hands trembled as I fumbled to start the engine, my breath coming in rapid, panicked gasps. As I peeled out of the parking lot, I risked one last glance at the motel room window. The curtains were drawn, the room dark, empty, or so I thought. Just before I turned onto the main road, my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I didn't want to look. I knew I shouldn't, but I did. The live feed flickered onto my screen, and my stomach dropped. The closet door was now fully open, and standing inside, perfectly still, was me. A perfect, motionless copy of myself, staring directly at the camera. I slammed on the gas and didn't stop driving. I drove for hours, my mind racing, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly they ached. The highway stretched ahead, dark and empty, but no distance felt safe enough. I checked the rearview mirror constantly, half expecting to see something in the back seat. I didn't stop, not until exhaustion forced me to. At dawn, I pulled into a gas station on the outskirts of a town I didn't even recognize. My head was pounding, my throat dry. I needed to think, to understand what was happening. I parked at the far end of the lot, away from the other cars, and hesitantly checked my phone. The notification was still there. Motion detected. I didn't want to look. I knew whatever I saw would change everything. But I had to. I tapped the app. The screen flickered to life, showing my empty motel room. The closet door was wide open now. Nothing inside but darkness. My duplicate was gone. I exhaled shakily. Maybe it was over. Maybe I had left it behind. Then, the camera feed glitched. For a brief second, the image warped, lines of static rippling across the screen. And when it cleared, my breath caught in my throat. The camera was no longer showing the motel room. It was showing my car. The live feed was coming from inside my vehicle. And then, a notification popped up. Motion detected inside. My blood turned to ice. My entire body locked up, the instinct to run crashing against the knowledge that I had nowhere to go. My fingers trembled as I lifted the phone and slowly, so slowly, turned the camera to face the back seat. There was nothing there. Just crumpled fast food wrappers and my overnight bag. I let out a shaking breath. Maybe. The screen flickered again. And then, something exhaled against my ear. Hot, wet, wrong. My stomach lurched. My vision swam. I didn't have time to react. A hand, thin, ice cold, clamped over my mouth. I saw it then. A reflection in my phone screen. Not mine. Not human. A shape, featureless and impossibly dark, leaning over the seat behind me. Close. Too close. And then it whispered, low, rasping, something I couldn't understand. But I knew what it meant. It had never been in my closet. It had always been with me. And now it didn't need to hide anymore. The last thing I saw before everything went black was my phone screen. The live feed showing my own terrified face. Just before the camera cut to static. I never paid much attention to my home security cameras. They were mostly for peace of mind, just a simple system set up in case of a break-in. I had one at the front door, one in the living room, and another overlooking the backyard. The app stored recordings for about 2 weeks before automatically deleting them. Most of the time, I never even checked. Nothing ever happened. Until last night. Started when I got a notification. Storage almost full. Review old footage. I was about to ignore it, but something made me pause. I had been meaning to clear out old videos anyway, so I opened the app and scrolled back through the recordings. Most were normal me coming home from work, the cat jumping on the couch, the occasional package delivery. But then, I saw something that made my stomach tighten. A recording from 3 weeks ago. A night when I wasn't home. I tapped on it. The video started with a clear view of my living room. Dimly lit, completely empty. The timestamp read 12:32 a.m. For a while, nothing happened. Then, at 12:34 a.m., something moved near the window. A reflection in the glass. I leaned closer, trying to make it out. The quality wasn't great, but the shape was unmistakable, a face. Someone was inside my house. My pulse pounded in my ears. I rewound, zooming in, my fingers shaking. The face was blurred, distorted by the glass. But as I adjusted the brightness, my heart nearly stopped. It was me. I recoiled, my mind scrambling for an explanation. I wasn't home that night. I knew I wasn't. And yet, there I was, staring back from the window. Except, something was wrong. The me in the reflection wasn't moving. It wasn't blinking. It wasn't reacting to anything. It was just watching. Then, just before the recording ended, the reflection tilted its head. Not in a natural way. Not like a person would. Like something pretending to be me. I slammed my phone down, my breath coming in short, panicked bursts. This had to be a mistake. A glitch. Something. But I knew one thing for certain. Whatever was in that reflection wasn't me. And whatever it was, it had been inside my house. I couldn't stop staring at the screen. My own face, or something wearing it, reflected in the window from a night I knew I hadn't been home. My mind raced through possibilities. A glitch? A weird trick of the light? Maybe some kind of app malfunction? But deep down, I knew none of that made sense. I needed to see more. I scrolled through the footage, rewinding to midnight, just before the reflection appeared. The living room sat undisturbed, the faint hum of the refrigerator barely audible in the background. The couch, the coffee table, the bookshelves, everything was exactly where it should be. Then, at 12:31 a.m., something changed. Not a sound. Not a movement. Just a sudden shift in the atmosphere. The air in the video seemed denser. The shadows looked wrong, as if the lighting in the room had subtly changed, even though nothing had physically moved. And then, at 12:32 a.m., something entered the frame. Not from the front door. Not from the hallway. From the corner of the room. A patch of darkness at the edge of the frame seemed to unfold, stretching, twisting, forming a shape. I leaned closer, my breath catching in my throat. The figure that emerged was tall, thin, its movements unnatural, jerky, almost hesitant. It wasn't walking. It was shifting forward. And then I saw its face. It was me. But it wasn't. It had my features, my eyes, my mouth, my expression. But something about it was off. The eyes were too hollow, the mouth too stiff, the head tilting just a fraction too far, like a puppet struggling to mimic real human movements. It stood there, staring toward the window. Then, slowly, it turned its head toward the camera. I flinched. My heart was hammering so hard I could barely hear the faint audio of the recording. The thing wearing my face tilted its head, just like in the reflection. Then, with deliberate slowness, it raised one hand and pointed directly at the camera. At me. The recording cut off. I sat frozen, my phone slipping from my grasp onto the couch. What the hell was that? I wasn't home that night. I hadn't been anywhere near my house. So what was that thing? And more importantly, where did it go after the recording ended? I sat there for what felt like forever, my mind refusing to process what I had just seen. I wasn't home that night. I knew that. And yet, something that looked like me had appeared in my living room, staring at the window, staring at the camera. And then it had pointed at me. I needed to get out of the house. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my keys and phone, barely remembering to slip on my shoes before I rushed outside. The night air hit me like a shock, cool and quiet, the kind of stillness that should have been calming but wasn't. I climbed into my car, locked the doors, and just sat there, my pulse hammering in my ears. What now? I had no idea. But I wasn't stepping back into that house until I figured out what I had just watched. My phone buzzed. Another notification from the security app. New recording saved. I swallowed hard, dread settling in my stomach like a weight. I almost didn't want to look, but I had to. The recording had started 10 minutes ago, when I had still been inside the house. I tapped the video. The living room appeared empty. The faint hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. Nothing moved. Then the camera flickered, and suddenly there I was, sitting on the couch, right where I had been just moments ago. But I was still in my car. Couldn't breathe. My body in the video, the other me, wasn't moving. It just sat there, perfectly still, facing forward. Its hands rested on its knees, its posture too stiff, too rigid, like it was waiting. Then, it did something that made my entire body go cold. It turned its head toward the camera. Slowly. But its eyes didn't move right away. They stayed staring forward for a second too long, as if they hadn't caught up with the movement of its head. Then, after an unnatural pause, they snapped toward the camera. Snapped toward me. I choked on my breath, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached. And then, the thing on the screen began to stand up. Its movements were jerky, unnatural. Its arms were stiff as it slowly pushed itself to its feet. Its head still locked toward the camera, locked toward me. Then, step by step, it started walking toward the front door, toward where I was sitting outside in my car. The video ended. My phone buzzed again. Motion detected at front door. I didn't look. I didn't breathe. I just started the car and sped away. I floored the gas pedal, my tires screeching against the pavement as I tore out of my driveway. My pulse pounded in my ears, my breath coming in sharp, ragged bursts. I didn't know where I was driving. I just knew I had to get away. My phone buzzed violently in the passenger seat, more notifications flooding in. I didn't dare look. I knew what they were. Motion detected. Front door open. Motion detected outside. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my fingers ached. I could feel it. I wasn't alone anymore. The thing in my house. The thing that had been watching me from the recording. It wasn't just inside anymore. It was outside. And it was following me. I risked a glance in the rearview mirror, and my stomach dropped. Something was standing in the middle of the road behind me. Tall. Still. Wrong. I couldn't see its face. It was too far, just a shadow against the streetlights. But I knew. I knew exactly what it was. It was me, or whatever had been pretending to be me. I pressed harder on the gas, my speed climbing past 80, 90. The road ahead stretched endlessly, lined with trees, empty of any other cars. I wasn't escaping. I was running blind. My phone buzzed again. Against every instinct, I snatched it up and checked the notification. Live feed active, viewing now. What? I hadn't opened the app. The screen flickered. The camera view loaded. My heart stopped. The live feed wasn't from my security cameras. It wasn't from my house. It was from inside my car. The view was grainy, dark, but clear enough to show the driver's seat. Me, driving. But something was wrong. The me in the feed wasn't moving. I was frozen, hands gripping the wheel, eyes staring straight ahead, but not blinking. My mouth was slightly open, lips stretched too wide, too unnatural, as if locked in some kind of silent scream. And then, the frozen version of me in the live feed slowly turned its head. Not toward the road, toward the back seat. Couldn't breathe. I felt it before I heard it. The slow, rattling inhale behind me. Hot air against the back of my neck. I didn't turn. Couldn't. The last thing I saw in the mirror, before the car jerked violently and the world turned upside down, was my own reflection, staring back at me, smiling. Then everything went black. The impact was brutal. A deafening crash. The car flipped, once, twice, metal screeching, glass shattering. My body slammed against the seatbelt, my head snapping forward, then sideways. Pain exploded through me, then stillness. For a moment, everything blurred. My ears rang. My vision swam. I was upside down. The car had landed on its roof, the windshield spiderwebbed with cracks. The dashboard was crushed, smoke curling into the air. My phone was gone. Blood dripped from my forehead. But none of that mattered, because I wasn't alone. Presence filled the car, wrong, suffocating, heavy. A hand, cold and bony, brushed against my shoulder. It was still here. I sucked in a breath, forcing my head to turn. Every nerve in my body screamed not to look. But I did, and I wished I hadn't. It sat in the passenger seat, inches from my face. Myself. But not me. Its head was tilted at an unnatural angle. Its face stretched into something that wasn't quite a smile. Its mouth was open, too wide, its lips curling past where they should end, teeth exposed, unmoving. Its eyes were wrong, hollow, empty pits of black, like something wearing my skin but forgetting how to be human. Then, in a slow, jerking motion, it raised its hand to my face. My body refused to move, couldn't fight, couldn't run. Its fingers brushed my cheek, light, almost gentle. Then it spoke. But the voice wasn't mine. It was layers of something else. Something deep, guttural, like static whispering through a broken radio. It's time to switch. The world ripped apart. A flash of darkness. Then, I was standing, on the road, beside the wrecked car, looking down, at my own broken body inside. I tried to move, to scream, but I couldn't. Because I wasn't me anymore. The thing inside the car, the thing wearing my body, slowly turned its head. And then it smiled. Not a twisted, wrong smile like before. A real one. It blinked, took a deep, satisfied breath. Then it reached for my phone, pulled itself out of the wreck, and walked away, leaving me behind, trapped, watching, screaming inside a body that wasn't mine anymore. And no one would ever know. Started a week ago. The first time, I barely noticed it. A simple motion alert from my security cameras at exactly 3:33 a.m. I assumed it was a stray cat or maybe a passing car. The footage showed nothing but darkness and the faint glow of my porch light. I ignored it. The next night, another alert. 3:33 a.m. This time, when I checked the video, I saw something. A figure, standing at the edge of my driveway. It was hard to make out. Tall, wearing a hood, its face hidden. It didn't move, didn't approach. Just stood there, watching. A chill ran through me, but I tried to be rational. Maybe a lost neighbor. A drunk. Someone passing through. I went outside, shining a flashlight into the yard. No one was there. By morning, I convinced myself it was nothing. Until the next night. Another alert. 3:33 a.m. I opened the app, my heart pounding. The figure was back. But this time, it was closer. standing just at the edge of my front lawn, facing the camera. Not moving, not blinking. The street behind it was empty. No cars, no footsteps, no sound. I felt a growing unease settle into my bones. Someone was messing with me. They had to be. I stayed awake that night watching the live feed. But at 3:33 a.m., the app didn't even send a notification. No motion detected. Yet, when I checked the recording the next morning, the figure was there, standing at my front door. And I never heard a thing. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. The image of the figure standing at my front door was burned into my mind. I had locked everything, double-checked the windows, even placed a chair against the door. But that didn't explain how it got so close without triggering my camera until after the fact. I told myself it was a prank. Some creep getting his kicks by messing with me. Maybe he knew where the camera's blind spots were. Maybe he had been watching me longer than I realized. That thought made my skin crawl. The next day, I adjusted the security system. I added another camera above the door, set the sensitivity to maximum, and even left the porch light on. I needed to catch whoever or whatever was doing this. That night, I stayed up, phone in hand, live feed open. 3:31 a.m. Nothing. 3:32 a.m. The street was empty. No movement. 3:33 a.m. Motion detected. My breath hitched. The app struggled to load, the screen lagging for a few agonizing seconds. And then, the figure was there, standing in the exact same spot as last night. Hood up, face hidden, unmoving. My pulse pounded in my ears. But this time, I noticed something new. The porch light was on, and yet the figure cast no shadow. A chill crawled up my spine. That was impossible. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering. I expected it to move, to step forward like last time. But it didn't. It just stood there, watching, waiting. I clenched my phone, debating whether to call the police. What could I even tell them? A person standing outside wasn't a crime. And if they found no one, I'd sound paranoid. But then, 3:34 a.m., the feed glitched. Only for a second. A flicker of static. And when it cleared, the figure was closer. Halfway up my driveway now. Still, staring. I hadn't looked away. I hadn't blinked. How did it move that fast? A deep, primal fear took hold. I backed away from the phone like it could reach through the screen. I needed to look outside. I had to know if it was really there. But as I reached for the curtain, 3:35 a.m., another glitch. The feed jumped forward, and the figure was now at my front door. Not moving, not knocking, just waiting. I clamped a hand over my mouth to stop myself from screaming. My whole body was trembling. Then, the phone buzzed. A new notification popped up. Sound detected. Front door. I wasn't breathing. My ears strained, listening. Then, barely audible, a slow, deliberate creak. The sound of my front door opening. The sound of my front door opening sent a bolt of pure terror through me. I scrambled off the couch, heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst. My phone shook in my hands as I fumbled to check the live feed again. The figure was gone. Not outside. Not at the door. Inside. A new notification popped up. Motion detected. Living room. I nearly dropped the phone. My breathing was shallow, ragged. It was in the house. I didn't hear it walk. I didn't hear footsteps. Just silence. And then, a whisper. Low, ragged. So quiet I almost thought I imagined it. I see you. I clamped a hand over my mouth, eyes darting toward the hallway. The house was dark, the only light coming from my phone screen. Every shadow felt deeper, every inch of darkness suddenly dangerous. Then, another notification. Motion detected, hallway. No, 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 no. I turned, barely able to breathe. The hallway stretched into darkness, leading to my bedroom. I couldn't see anything, but something was there, watching, waiting. Then, a floorboard creaked, right outside my bedroom door. Panic seized me. I had seconds to act. Run? Hide? Get out? I bolted, straight for the front door. But the moment my fingers touched the handle, it slammed shut, hard. like something on the other side had pushed it closed. I staggered back, my vision tunneling, my breath coming in short gasps. My phone buzzed again. A new video had been saved. I didn't want to look, couldn't look, but my thumb moved on its own, pressing play. The feed opened, grainy, shaky. The angle was different. It wasn't showing the living room anymore. It was filming me, from behind. A cold breath slid down my neck. And then, everything went dark. The darkness swallowed me. My body refused to move. My breath hitched in my throat. My limbs locked in place. The air behind me felt thick, suffocating, wrong. I wasn't alone. I knew it. I felt it. The phone slipped from my fingers, hitting the floor with a dull thud. The screen still flickered with the live feed showing me, standing there, frozen. And behind me the figure. No more distance. No more slow approach. It was right there, close enough to touch. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything. But before I could move, it grabbed me. Ice-cold fingers clamped around my shoulders, pulling me backward into the blackness. My vision spun, my body yanked hard into the unseen. I kicked, thrashed, but it was useless. The shadows consumed me. I fell through something that wasn't my house anymore. Through a void of black static and whispering voices. Low, broken, distorted. Repeating my name. Then, a light, dim, flickering. I hit the ground, gasping, my body not my own. I wasn't in my house anymore. I was outside, standing at the edge of my driveway. At 3:33 a.m., the street was empty, silent. My house loomed ahead, its windows dark. And then I saw myself, inside, through the front window, sitting on the couch, phone in hand, staring at the screen, motionless, like I had been waiting for something. For me. My breath caught in my throat. I took a step forward, and inside the other me moved, turned its head, slowly, and it smiled. A slow, knowing grin that wasn't mine. Then, the front door opened, and my own voice, distorted, twisted, whispered from inside, "It's your turn now." The next night, at 3:33 a.m., the cameras picked up movement again. A new figure stood at the edge of the driveway, still, watching, waiting, for the next visitor. I never paid much attention to the settings on my security system. It was just a standard home surveillance setup, nothing fancy, just a few cameras to keep an eye on things. One night, while messing around in the app, I noticed a setting I had never seen before. Identify all residents of the house. Curious, I clicked on it. A loading bar appeared, processing the information. Then, after a few seconds, a list popped up. There were 2 names. The first one was mine. The second one was labeled unknown. My stomach dropped. I lived alone. My hands went cold as I stared at the screen. It had to be a mistake. A glitch. Maybe the system misread an object in the house as a person. That had to be it. Right? I clicked on the unknown entry. A new option appeared. View activity history. I hesitated. My breath felt shallow, my heart pounding. Then, with a shaking finger, I tapped it. The screen loaded a list of timestamps. Hundreds of them. Every single day. The unknown had been detected inside my house. Every single night. And always between 2 o'clock and 4 a.m. I scrolled frantically, my pulse racing. The entries went back months. I had never seen anything. Never heard anything. But according to my security system, I wasn't alone. Then, a new notification appeared at the top of the screen. Motion detected. Living room. Right now, I wasn't in the living room. I wasn't even inside the house. I was sitting outside in my car. My blood turned to ice. I switched to the live feed. The camera struggled to load, the spinning wheel of death stretching the seconds into eternity. Then, the image appeared. First, everything looked normal. The couch, the coffee table, the dim glow from the streetlights outside. Then I saw it. A figure standing in the corner of the room. Still, motionless, his face blurred. Like the camera didn't know how to process it. Like it wasn't supposed to be seen. Then, the screen flickered, and the figure was closer, looking directly at the camera. I dropped my phone. My hands were shaking, my breath coming in shallow gasps. The unknown wasn't some glitch. It was real, and it knew I was watching. My pulse pounded as I stared at the phone lying on the passenger seat. I didn't want to pick it up, didn't want to see, but I had to. With a shaking hand, I grabbed the phone and looked at the screen. The live feed was still open. The figure was gone. The living room was empty. The couch, the coffee table, everything was exactly as it should be. Except for one thing. The camera feed was still glitching. Small flickers of static rippled across the screen. Like something had been there a moment ago. Like something was still there, just out of sight. I scanned the room, my breath coming in shallow gasps. The coffee table, the hallway entrance, the window. Then, the camera glitched again. Just for a second. Quick, distorted flicker. But it was enough. The reflection in the window. I saw it. Something was standing behind the camera. My stomach twisted. My entire body went cold. The security cameras were mounted high, near the ceiling. There was nothing behind them. Nothing that should be able to stand there. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I needed to leave. Now, I started the car, but before I could shift into reverse, my phone buzzed again. Another notification. New resident detected. I stared at the words, my breath caught in my throat. My vision swam as I tapped the notification, my hands shaking violently. A new name had appeared in the resident list. But it wasn't an actual name. It was just one word. Watching. My skin crawled. I felt sick, lightheaded. No. I turned back to the live feed one last time. And then, the screen glitched violently. The static warped and twisted. And the figure was back. Closer. Standing directly in front of the camera now. Still. Staring. Then, the screen went black. A final notification popped up. Cameras disabled. Something inside my house had just shut them off. And I was still parked in the driveway, watching the darkened windows, waiting, as something inside waited for me to come home. I sat frozen in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers ached. The house loomed ahead, its windows dark. The cameras were off. Something inside had shut them down. Something that had been watching me for months. A cold sweat broke out across my skin. My body screamed at me to drive away, to never come back. But my laptop was inside. My wallet. My entire life. And worst of all, the front door was wide open. I hadn't left it that way. Couldn't breathe. I hadn't even heard it unlock. Had it been open the whole time? Or had something opened it for me? I reached for my phone, fingers trembling, and tried to restart the cameras. The app refused to load. Error. Then, a single new notification popped up. Welcome home. I dropped the phone. My entire body went cold. The message wasn't from the security app. It was from an unknown number. And then, a faint creak. From inside the house. Right near the doorway. I barely moved, barely even breathed. But deep in the darkness beyond the open door, something shifted. I saw it. A shape, tall, still, waiting. And then, it stepped forward. Not fast, not aggressive, slow, deliberate, like it knew I wouldn't run, like it knew I was already trapped. I slammed the car into reverse, tires screeching as I backed down the driveway. My breath came in sharp, panicked gasps. I glanced back at the house one last time. The door was closed now, and standing in the upstairs window was me, watching myself leave. Couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I was watching myself from the upstairs window, but I was still in my car. My mind fought against the impossibility of it. My body, my reflection, was inside the house, and it was watching me. A sick, paralyzing dread coiled in my stomach. The thing in the window didn't move, didn't blink. It just stood there. Then, it smiled. Not a normal smile. Too wide. Too wrong. It lifted a hand. And waved. A slow, deliberate wave. A mockery. Like it knew exactly what I was thinking. Like it knew I wasn't going anywhere. A new notification buzzed on my phone, vibrating violently against the dashboard. I didn't want to look. I shouldn't have looked. But my trembling hand reached for the screen anyway. New device detected. You. My entire body locked up. Then, one by one, more notifications flooded in. You are inside. You are watching. You never left. My vision blurred. My breath came in short, panicked gasps. No, no, no. The phone buzzed again. A new video. Live feed. From inside my house. I didn't open it. Couldn't. But before I could stop myself, the screen glitched. The video played on its own. The feed showed the living room. And then, a figure stepped into frame. Me. Walking calmly through the house. Moving like I belonged there. Like I had never left. Turned toward the camera. Then spoke. You took too long. My stomach twisted. What? The feed glitched again. The screen filled with blackness. Then, the car door unlocked. A sharp, loud click. Right next to me, the passenger door. The one I hadn't touched. It swung open. And before I could react, something climbed inside. I turned and saw my own face, smiling. The last thing I felt was its cold fingers pressing against my throat. As the camera feed cut to black. The next day, the cameras turned back on. Everything looked normal. The house, the living room, the street, and parked in the driveway was my car, with me inside, sitting still, smiling at the camera, waiting for the next visitor. The notification woke me up. A soft chime from my phone, barely audible in the quiet of my bedroom. I squinted at the screen, groggy, my eyes struggling to focus. Door is open. My heart skipped. I sat up fast, my breath catching in my throat. The message was from my security system, the front door, the one I had locked before bed. I checked the time. 3:12 a.m. My stomach twisted. No one else was in the house. Hands shaking, I tapped the notification and opened the live camera feed. The front door was wide open. The porch light flickered, casting long shadows on the floor. The night outside was empty. No movement, no signs of forced entry. Just the door, standing open, as if someone had walked right in. A creeping sense of dread coiled in my stomach. I forced myself to take a slow, shaky breath. Maybe I had forgotten to lock it? Maybe the wind. Then, movement. A shadow slipped inside. From the darkness beyond the door, something entered my house. Not a person. Not exactly. It was tall and wrong. Its form was shifting, its edges blurred, like it wasn't meant to be seen, like the camera was struggling to process it. My lungs locked, my hands clenched around the phone. The thing moved slowly, deliberate, as if it knew I was watching. And then, it stopped, right beneath the camera, looking up, as if it knew exactly where I was. The screen glitched. The video cut to black. My phone buzzed again. A new message. Door is closed. I stared at the screen, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Whatever had just come inside, it never left. I sat frozen in bed, gripping my phone so tightly my fingers went numb. The house was silent. Too silent. My ears strained for the smallest noise. Footsteps, creaking floorboards, breathing. Nothing. But I wasn't alone. I knew that now. I forced myself to check the cameras again. The front door feed was black. The system still rebooting from whatever had happened. But I had others. I tapped into the hallway camera. The video loaded sluggishly, the signal weak. Then, finally, my screen filled with a grainy image of the hallway outside my bedroom. It looked normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The hallway felt too empty, like it was waiting. I hesitated, then switched to the living room feed. The camera flickered to life, showing the dimly lit space. The couch, the coffee table, the TV's faint reflection in the window. Nothing was moving. Then, a shiver ran down my spine. The reflection. In the dark glass of the TV screen, something was there. A shape, standing in the middle of the room. I could barely make it out, but it was there. Tall, unmoving, facing the hallway, facing me. My stomach twisted. I flicked back to the hallway camera. Still empty. I checked the living room again. The shape was gone. I clamped a hand over my mouth, my breath coming fast and shallow. Then, a soft creak came from the hallway, right outside my door. I wasn't alone. And now, it was closer. I couldn't move. My body refused to obey as I sat frozen in bed, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles ached. The house was too quiet. No hum of the refrigerator. No distant creaks from the old pipes. Just silence. And the slow, faint creak of a floorboard, right outside my bedroom door. A sharp chill ran down my spine. I forced my shaking fingers to refresh the hallway camera. The video flickered, loaded sluggishly. Then, my stomach dropped. The hallway wasn't empty anymore. Something was standing just outside my door. Not moving. Not breathing. Just standing. Its form was wrong, barely visible in the grainy darkness. A tall shadow, featureless, blurred at the edges, like the camera couldn't quite capture it. But the worst part, it was facing the door, facing me. It knew I was watching. I swallowed back a scream. No, 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 no. My pulse thundered in my ears. My hands trembled violently. This isn't real. This can't be real. Then, the screen glitched. For just a second. A flicker of static. When the feed returned, the figure was gone. The hallway was empty. I stared, my breath coming in shallow gasps. My fingers hovered over the screen, shaking violently. Then, the doorknob turned. Slow, deliberate. A long, metallic click echoed through the silent room. It was opening the door. My entire body locked up. Then, in the quiet, a voice, low, whispering, "I see you." The door creaked open. A shadow spilled inside. Something stepped in. I never saw its face. I never had time to scream. The last thing I saw before the screen cut to black was the notification on my phone. Door is closed. The door creaked open, slow and deliberate, the sound stretching through the silence like a knife scraping against bone. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. The shadow spilled into the room, thick and wrong, its form shifting in the dim light. I knew I shouldn't look, but my eyes were already locked on it. The thing that had entered my house. The thing that had been watching. It didn't step in like a person would. It glided, silent, smooth, not quite touching the ground. Not entirely there. The edges of its form blurred, twisting like the camera feed before it had gone black. Like my eyes weren't supposed to be seeing it at all. But the worst part? It was wearing me. A stretched, distorted version of me. The head tilted at an unnatural angle, the mouth slightly open, but too wide. The face was wrong. Like something had tried to shape itself into me but hadn't quite gotten it right. And the eyes, hollow, empty. But I felt them, burning into me. I tried to move, to run, to do anything. But my body wouldn't listen. The air in the room had changed thick, suffocating. Like I had already stepped into something else. Like I had already left my body behind. And then, it took another step forward. Close, too close. It raised a hand. My hand. And reached toward my face. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight. I wanted to wake up. But then, a single, cold breath ghosted against my cheek. The whisper came next. Low, distorted. Inside my head. You let me in. And then, it grabbed me. The world snapped. Darkness. Falling. Then, I was standing. In the hallway. The air around me felt wrong. Thick. Heavy. Like I was submerged in something unseen. I turned. Disoriented. My breath coming in ragged gasps. My bedroom door was open, but I could still see my bed. See the shape lying there. Still. Motionless. Me. I choked on a breath. My pulse slamming in my ears. I was still in bed. But I was also here. Standing outside the room. Looking in. And then, the thing on the bed opened its eyes. My eyes. But they weren't mine. They were watching me. And it smiled. Not a real smile. Too wide. Too knowing. Like it understood something I didn't. Like it knew I was already gone. I tried to move. Tried to speak. But my body, my real body, sat up first. It turned its head, looking directly at me, its smile stretching even wider. Then it lifted a hand and waved, slow, mocking, like it knew, like it was saying, goodbye. My body, the thing that was wearing my skin, stood up, and then closed the door, locking me out, trapping me in the dark. I screamed, but no one could hear me, because I wasn't me anymore, and I never would be again. The next morning, my security camera sent me one last notification. Door is open. But this time, no one ever saw me leave. The door creaked open, slow and deliberate, the sound stretching through the silence like a knife scraping against bone. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. The shadow spilled into the room, thick and wrong, its form shifting in the dim light. I knew I shouldn't look, but my eyes were already locked on it. The thing that had entered my house. The thing that had been watching. It didn't step in like a person would. It glided, silent, smooth, not quite touching the ground. Not entirely there. The edges of its form blurred, twisting like the camera feed before it had gone black. Like my eyes weren't supposed to be seeing it at all. But the worst part? It was wearing me. A stretched, distorted version of me. The head tilted at an unnatural angle, the mouth slightly open, but too wide. The face was wrong. Like something had tried to shape itself into me but hadn't quite gotten it right. And the eyes, hollow, empty, but I felt them, burning into me. I tried to move, to run, to do anything, but my body wouldn't listen. The air in the room had changed thick, suffocating, like I had already stepped into something else, like I had already left my body behind. And then, it took another step forward. Close, too close. It raised a hand, my hand, and reached toward my face. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight. I wanted to wake up. But then, a single, cold breath ghosted against my cheek. The whisper came next, low, distorted, inside my head. You let me in. And then, it grabbed me. The world snapped. Darkness. Falling. Then, I was standing. In the hallway. The air around me felt wrong. Thick. Heavy, like I was submerged in something unseen. I turned, disoriented, my breath coming in ragged gasps. My bedroom door was open, but I could still see my bed, see the shape lying there, still, motionless. Me. I choked on a breath, my pulse slamming in my ears. I was still in bed, but I was also here, standing outside the room, looking in, and then, the thing on the bed opened its eyes. My eyes, but they weren't mine. They were watching me, and it smiled. Not a real smile. Too wide, too knowing. Like it understood something I didn't. Like it knew I was already gone. I tried to move, tried to speak. But my body, my real body, sat up first. It turned its head, looking directly at me, its smile stretching even wider. Then it lifted a hand, and waved, slow, mocking, like it knew. Like it was saying, goodbye. My body, the thing that was wearing my skin, stood up, and then closed the door, locking me out, trapping me in the dark. I screamed, but no one could hear me, because I wasn't me anymore, and I never would be again. The next morning, my security camera sent me one last notification. Door is open. But this time, no one ever saw me leave.